Hello, and welcome back to the Aethercast Report. Today's topic is one that's a bit controversial, but also increasingly relevant as the years go by. Today, we will be talking about AI and video games. And here to talk to me about this is the two people that I had on last time. We'll start with Xander.
Yo.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing absolutely great. Happy to be here.
And then also returning is Chance.
Hi, I'm not qualified to talk about this.
Well, you're not qualified to talk about Pokemon either.
I've played a Pokemon.
A Pokemon, a singular Pokemon.
At least one.
I guess we could just start with our opinions. What do you think about AI?
Let's be a little bit more clear on this one. We're talking about generative AI, or are we talking about just AI in general? Because that's a big difference.
I think when it comes to this discussion, people generally understand AI as the generative one because obviously AI in video games has always been a thing with NPCs and whatnot, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about generative AI.
The way that AI used to be, described is not the same thing that AI is now.
Yeah.
AI in video games used to mean the thing that controls the characters that aren't you. Not quite
Bots.
that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're discussing about generative AI, which is usually used in people using, let's say, a generated image that a program has created by taking something that's learned off of the internet and plugging it into the video game itself. Yeah, that's the kind of AI that we will be discussing. And going forward on that one, I'd like to point out that I am personally not a fan of it at all, in any way, shape, or form.
Let me ask some clarifying questions on that. Do you see it as like a tool that developers can use to help make the processes faster? Or is it just like you're going to shut down AI just in general, if you could?
Okay, assuming, of course, everybody uses it correctly and the way it was originally intended, I would say that it would have been helpful in eliminating a lot of the tedious tasks in video game creation. The problem is that what I'm seeing out of it is not necessarily for that anymore. It's more a matter of either cutting corners or just making it relatively simpler and easier for people to essentially shove a product out as fast and as quickly as possible.
I think there are certain uses for AI that are okay. When it comes to making art that's on a wall in a video game that nobody's gonna even fucking notice, really. If you just took an AI image and put it there, it doesn't bother me. That is just a fast track to make your game a little bit faster. Hey, I wanted some rolling hills in the style of 19th century art. Fine. I do not care. They can do that. It makes the process quicker. When it comes to making actually every asset using AI, then it's not quite as good. That's more applicable to 2D games that you could do that. It probably wouldn't look very good either, I would assume, but I am a little more middle of the road, specifically being a composer and knowing how to make music. When they start putting AI music into video games, it's going to make me very, very sad because I can tell. I can tell when it's AI music, and people are just going to be like, it's free. Why would I pay a person when it's free?
In regards to that, I've always felt that, especially when it comes to video games, every aspect of it is usually an art format, whether it be the artistic side of it, the musical composition of it, to the acting, to everything about it just kind of being an art format. And when you start cutting corners on that, I feel like you're kind of losing that sense as you go along. Like you said with the whole picture example, it kind of begs the question, okay, we start with something small there, but then later on down the line, how do we go about from limiting just that small aspect to something bigger? Now this character here, this background character, just generated from something you found on the internet, and then it goes into something bigger and bigger and bigger until sooner or later, most of the game's assets are generated.
Game designers have been generating background characters based off of a pool of features for years.
Final Fantasy XIV is an example.
Yeah, like you just take your character creator and then you go, just put them together randomly, and that's how you get background characters.
But let
Look
me
at,
ask you this: is that example coming from like their internal assets, or is it coming from something that somebody had created online on the internet?
for AAA developers, it would be something that somebody made, absolutely 100%. For like an indie game dev, they probably bought a library.
Yeah, and those examples, I'm relatively okay with it, but the issue I'm having is them just grabbing assets that they've made off of, like, let's say, OpenAI or Grok AI or any of those others. Um, just grabbing any kind of imagery they can grab from that and then plugging it in, because those AI models are you learning from whatever they can find on the internet. And 9 times out of 10, that's based off of somebody else's work. It's essentially taking somebody else's stuff, rewarping it, and then putting it into something, and they're making money off of it. That's where I kind of have an issue with the whole setup.
So yours is more of like a copyright issue.
Very much so. I would hate for, let's say, I were to create a beautiful canvas of some background scenery or something like that, and then somebody goes and takes that and plugs it into their game. They're getting the money that is they're making from that product with my work in it, and I'm not seeing a dime or even any kind of recognition for it. I would be very upset by this. In fact, an example of that I do believe has cropped up in recent events. I think, if I remember correctly, Bungie's latest game, Marathon, actually had some art from somebody who actually was put their stuff out on like the internet and stuff like that, and
I
they
heard
just
about that.
used it without any kind of consideration or even contact with the original artist, and they caught wind of this, and I think there was going to be a lawsuit, but they settled out of it. I'm not 100% sure. You'd have to double check on that one. This is obviously an example, just one example, but corporations are going to start kind of consistently doing stuff like this the more they can get away with it. And that's what really worries about me overall, is how much are they going to try to just grab other people's stuff, claim it as their own, and then just get away with it without anybody really checking it out.
Yeah, and the fact that our government doesn't seem to be wanting to put in any rail guards with AI or any kind of regulations to prevent labor loss.
I will point out that I've actually read some articles in regards to something in the U.S. government trying to look into stuff like that, but nothing concrete as of yet.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
So, the wheels of bureaucracy always turn slowly. So I'm not really banking off of that. I can at least say that I've seen some stuff about that making headroom. So we'll see in the future. But as of right now, there is nothing really limiting anybody from just grabbing whatever it is and then slapping it into their work, except for something along the lines of like Steam, who have I think it's a mandatory thing now where you have to, if you've used AI generated assets, you have to plug it in directly into the BIOS or something like that to let people know there's like, hey, this was AI created.
Not just that, but you also have to describe how it was used.
I think stuff like that's an excellent step towards, trying to help regulate it at least. If nothing else, let people know what has AI in it and what doesn't, just to make it a little bit easier for us to work around it.
There's this game called Vaudeville. Basically, you either talk or type what you want to say, and AI runs it through a script, and yada yada. So, in the AI disclosure, it says AI generated content disclosure. The developer described how they uses AI generative content like this. This game includes dialogues generated with the help of conversational AI and may not be appropriate for all audiences. So that's an example of how they not only disclose it, but how it's used.
I would say that's relatively okay, because the game was designed around the idea of using AI to begin with. So it's not necessarily trying to be sneaky about it, which I appreciate.
I don't necessarily think that's the reason that you're okay with it. I think the difference is that an AI chatbot in a video game does something that you cannot do without using it. If you had a person that could respond to every message, that's basically exactly what this does. When it comes to stealing art or music or assets, it's making something that a person could have made And that's the difference, is that the AI chatbot does something that you cannot do without it in a game.
Yeah, I mean, that also kind of lines up with the idea of it being an art format, because I don't believe a machine can make art, because art comes from something that a lot of people would say you feel, rather than something that's just, binary.
You don't
And it's
think,
kind of hard
oh,
for
that looks cool is a valid feeling you could have towards AI art?
It's not that I don't necessarily think that that's not a feeling I could have. What I'm saying is that when it comes to art, how can a machine describe what it feels when it creates something? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that seems more like a philosophical question, I think.
Maybe so, but that's kind of where a lot of my viewpoints stem from. It's just my view
Yeah.
on it altogether.
My thing about the whole AI thing is I don't want it to replace people. I don't want corporations to be able to use it to cut their labor costs just so they can make more money for themselves and not for their people. I think AI can be used as a tool if used correctly, but obviously there are also incorrect ways of using AI, like with Chance's picture example, like picture on a wall in a random set. I still want those pictures to be done by a person, but I could see it being like a placeholder being used by AI. I could see concept art being used by AI. I just want all of the assets at the end of the day being done by humans.
Now, it's kind of funny that Chance brought up the whole like picture on the wall being generated just to kind of create some background imagery, because IGN just released an article today about the latest game, Crimson Desert, that a lot of people seem to be thinking that some of the paintings in the background might actually be AI generated, and I could see why people would think that might actually be AI generated.
I think one thing I'll say for sure is that the worst part about AI being a thing is that now everyone is pointing fingers being like, oh, that's clearly AI, or oh, I think that's AI, when there's a possibility that it's not.
Oh yeah, definitely. I came across an artist who actually does it in a style that a lot of people would say, oh, because of how glossy that looks, it's AI generated. And it's like, no, it's not. And even at times, I can't tell the difference these days between AI generated image versus something that is something hand drawn at times. Like, we're obviously still in that area where like videos can somewhat still be looked at and be like, okay, that's obvious and whatnot. But when it comes to imagery, I don't know. It's like you can definitely tell in some cases, but other cases it's not. And therefore people just kind of throw around the accusation left and right that's, oh, this is AI generated or that's AI generated. And it may not be the case. I think we're all kind of, what's the term? Gun shy on AI being in things, that we're now just kind of pointing at everything.
Oh, jumping the gun, yeah.
I just don't think that this offends me that bad. It saved a little bit of production time. Were they going to pay the person that made the background art ludicrous sums of money for making the background art? Probably not.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to say with how they generated it as well, because for all we know, they may have something on the internal side that's like, purchase assets and then generated from that. We don't know.
I will say, from what I'm seeing in this article, it looks like if these images are AI, then they are in violation of Steam's AI content policy, which is to disclose if you're using it. So if they didn't disclose it, but it is AI, then yeah, that is an issue.
Yeah, I noticed that actually towards the end of the article, they brought that up, and that could be an issue later on down the road. But it also could be a situation like with Expedition 33, where, it was there as a placeholder and then just completely forgotten to remove it and put something else in there.
That's possible. Some of these may be AI, but there are two that look like really similar in art style to each other, and generally AI doesn't do, hey, make this in the same style very well.
With the whole Expedition 33 thing, I think that's a something I would like to talk about for a little bit.
Go ahead, you put up with my rant.
I think the hate they got after, and I solely believe this is because they got Game of the Year, or they kind of swept the Game Awards. It was just so fucking bullshit. I feel like they were like, people were like chomping at the bit to find something to hate on Expedition 33 for, and then they realized, oh, there's this AI image that got replaced on the first patch of Expedition 33, and then whenever like the developers explained it, they're like, hey, this is when AI first came out, like generative AI first came out. We were just experimenting with it, and then we just didn't do it again after that. Like, that's a reasonable explanation, but it feels like people are just finding reasons to hate on these developers because whatever's popular is popular to hate too.
I also think it has a lot to do with because the fact that Expedition 33 was made by technically a bunch of nobodies. So, and it was doing a lot better than a lot of these AAA games, so naturally that was going to incur some hate.
With it being
So
turn-based
there's
combat
that.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how is this turn-based combat game getting Game of the Year?
Because it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I don't care how it's done. If it does it great, then go for it. Whether it's for me or for not, it's not me to decide. But if the public loves it, then there we go.
But they did go back and replace that image that was clearly AI, and I feel like at that point no one had any reason to complain. But obviously people are gonna find reasons to complain anyways.
If anybody's gonna find a reason to complain.
I don't think it should have been stripped of its Game of the Year award because of one image. Now, if it turned out that
correction on that, they didn't lose the Game of the Year with the Game Awards. They lost it with a totally different entity.
Fair. I think hating on a game just because of one thing that they eventually patched out before anybody really noticed, it's making a mountain out of a molehill, if you ask me.
So, good uses of AI in video games. I am going to say that Nvidia DLSS is one of the best uses for AI that I have seen for anything. And I am not saying that because of DLSS 5. I know that's a topic that we're going to talk about, but we are talking about up 1 through 4, where the only thing that it was doing was upsampling lower resolution images to make them higher resolution while not using nearly as much computing power.
Is DLSS also the same model that generates frames as well?
It can, yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Isn't that how a lot of the like HD remakes and stuff like that upscale their titles?
I don't think so.
Not necessarily. So a lot of your games are actually just being remade with higher resolution everything. DLSS, all it does is takes lower resolution image, upscale it. And it's kind of guessing on the inside, so you get a little bit of fuzziness where it's a little weird, depending on how much you crank it. But you can run like games looking very good relatively on like really weak hardware now, which is not something that you used to be able to do.
Okay. I can see how that could be useful.
I think when I use DLSS, it just tanks my performance and makes the actual video looks worse. But I also might not be setting it up right, so that could just be a me thing.
I will
think you're doing it wrong.
You know, touching it up just to make it look a little bit better, I could see how that can be useful.
Yeah, I mean, being able to have underperforming computers be able to run these more intensive video games, I think that's a great thing of making it more accessible to more people.
Especially since it's doing it in a way that's not like, you know, it's not hindering your system, and it's just touching up things here and there, you know, about it, without like killing your CPU.
Now, if we take that to the hot topic of the day, Nvidia DLSS 5, where they, on top of the upscaling, put a filter that basically just like yassifies everything. That's where I jump ship. It looks so bad.
Oh, I agree. I'm looking at images of several games, and it makes it to where like a lot of things don't seem to be correct. Like I got this image of Resident Evil Requiem. We got the before and after, and it looks less like a game, and it looks entirely like an AI generated image.
Yes.
And I'm looking at that, and I'm just like, that looks horrible. First of all, it changes her face completely to where it looks like a completely different person. The background detail, like shadows and stuff like that, are entirely missing and replaced with details. And that's probably one of the biggest issues I've noticed when it comes to upscaling certain things on that, is you kind of lose some level of details, but not to this extreme.
this isn't upscaling. This is we are replacing the picture because we want it to look quote unquote better.
But it doesn't look better. Jensen Huang, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. I'm pulling this article from Tom's Hardware. Apparently, says that gamers are completely wrong about DLSS 5.
Oh, really?
Since DLSS 5 was revealed yesterday, there have been a pretty vocal response about some of the gaming community that technology appears to be making games appear worse, homogeneous, or shows only Nvidia's view on how games should look. First of all, they're completely wrong. The reasoning for that is because I have explained very carefully DLSS 5 fuses controllability of the geometry and textures and everything about the game with generative AI. That, to me, sounds like as if he's just avoiding what people are talking about.
Ugh.
He added that it fine-tunes the generative AI, so it is in fact using generative AI, which means that it's turning nothing and making something out of it.
To be fair, DLSS has always used generative AI. It's just not used it in the same fashion. Basically, it was taking 2 pixels that look about the same color and making one in the middle that was the same color, and then the computer didn't have to think about that particular pixel. Now it's going, let's make this old lady look old.
It says it does not, and he said it does not change the artistic control. You may be saying that, but from what we're witnessing here, it's literally changing what we're seeing here.
DLSS 5 looks bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks horrible. Like, I saw another example of Hogwarts Legacy, where you had the main character, and everything wasn't meant to look photorealistic, but as soon as you threw DLSS 5, you turned a 15-year-old into a 37-year-old.
I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah, he does look quite a bit older, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like, that is not how it should be looking. So him saying that, they're completely wrong, and that it's still the developers still maintain artistic control over that, I'm questioning that.
I want to say something about the whole Yasified thing. Unfortunately, I hang around on Twitter quite a bit, so I often see these posts of like someone taking this established female character and running them through AI, saying that they're better. This is what those exactly look like. The Yasified version of those characters.
It's that.
It's like, oh, this is what gamers want. This is what the characters developers should be making if they want to actually appeal to gamers.
I think my biggest problem with this specifically is that the developer's intended artistic direction is not kept. It is changed entirely. Like the picture with Claire, that's the name of the girl from RE Requiem, right? Did I get that
Grace.
right? Grace, okay. Grace, she goes from looking like a office worker who works 9 hours a day and doesn't get Saturdays off, and every once in a while she doesn't have to go in on Sunday, and it takes it from that to, oh, that's actually just a supermodel for no reason.
Yeah, how are we going from a realistic person to essentially another Scarlett Johansson? How's that working?
Leon looks like a Giga Chad.
Oh my god. I think Leon is supposed to be a Giga Chad, so I think if just when he's in frame, it's fine.
Yeah, Xander, before we started recording, sent in this article that goes over some of these DLSS 5 on memes, which is like the RTX on, RTX off memes, is just like that, but to an even greater extreme.
Oh yeah. It's like, there was this one that I particularly loved that was Animal Crossing, but the money bags in the trees were no longer money bags; they were straight up potatoes.
The one right above it, the Phoenix Wright one, I fucking love.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Wright looking straight up like fucking illegal. It's fantastic.
Yeah, kinda actually. Prepare for Elder Scrolls 6 to have it, because Todd Howard is apparently really excited about it.
Nvidia, this is from an article from the BBC, but Nvidia says the tech was supported by major publishers and game developers, including Bethesda, Capcom, and Warner Brothers Games.
But I also saw an article saying that other developers hate it.
But most of them I've read that do in fact hate, and some of them are just like they have no idea where this even came from. But let's see here. Same article, Jeff Talbot, a concept artist from Gunfire Games, posted, "This is not the direction games should be going in. Each DLSS 5 shot looks worse and it has less character than the original." So there's clearly some negativity around it. This is off of InsiderGaming.com. Developers were left in the dark about DLSS 5. Speaking with developers and artists at studios that have agreed to DLSS 5, including Capcom and Ubisoft, Insider Gaming was told that the DLSS 5 tech was revealed to them at the same time as it was revealed to everyone else. "We found out at the same time as the public," said one Ubisoft developer. There's clearly not some communication going around when it comes to this, so who knows? In fact, if I remember correctly, some of these companies that are a part of it actually have openly opposed AI, and yet I think it was Capcom. I think Capcom opposed it, and yet they're one of the companies that's like, "Oh yeah, we're fully supporting of it."
I'm just gonna quickly bring up the sentence that you need to say every time you bring up AI anything, and that would be that right now is the worst it's ever going to be.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So maybe DLSS 10 looks fucking fantastic.
Everything
Maybe.
looks photorealistic.
As for it just putting a blank, just filter on top of everything, I'm opposed to that. Now, if it's like, okay, the developers have taken time to curate what it pays attention to and what not, that I'm a little more okay with. But I have to see an example of it before I'm on board with it.
Well, is there anything left to say about AI in video games?
Not that I could think of.
Don't take my job.
Yes, please don't take the jobs of hardworking developers, composers, artists.
Video editors?
Who am I kidding? Nobody pays me anyway.
I've paid you before.
Okay. No game developer has paid me. There you go. You happy?
Here on this podcast, we pay our friends.
Yeah. That's true.
Except I'm not paying you, either of you. So on that note, thank you both for coming and talking with me. Well, I may not be paying you, but I am going to give you a chance to plug your shit. So go ahead and tell me where people can find you.
You won't find me. I am a lurker on the internet. You will not find me.
All right, what about you, Chance?
I'm at Chansu Music, CHANSU Music, on YouTube.
If you like Zelda music, check them out. Well, that's going to do it for us here at the Aethercast Report. Thank you for coming and watching, and we'll catch you next time.